In this series, I'm going to be sharing with you some possible enzyme exam questions and answers so that you can actually give better response in any exams. Of course, whether you are in the high school or in the university or secondary school, this is for you. And we're going to be providing possible answers and some explanations at some point for you to better understand the topic to tackle any exams. This is going to be the first episode on this series, Enzymes. And looking at this, since we are dealing with this topic, I want to begin with the first possible question: what is an enzyme? Of course, this question can come in the form of a multiple choice question for you to pick one correct answer, or they can ask you to give it in the written format. What do you understand by the meaning enzyme? Beginning first with the definition of enzyme, I'm going to state that enzyme are specialized protein that act as biological catalyst to speed up the rate of chemical reaction so that reaction can take place faster in living organisms. And of course, it does this by lowering the activation energy for the reaction to take place faster. Now, of course, you have made us to understand as markers to know that this, as your definition have stated, is a specialized protein which speeds up the rate of chemical reaction. And how? By lowering the activation energy for reaction to take place faster. You have let us to know that enzymes are catalysts as well, and they help to speed up chemical reaction in living organisms by lowering the activation energy. Also, one very important point to note is the fact that they are highly specific for their substrate and remain unchanged at the end of a chemical reaction. And they help us or aid in metabolic processes such as digestion and cellular respiration. And if at all it comes in the form of multiple choice question, I will try to give you a list of 4 answers for you to pick the correct one. It can be stated that you should select one correct answer in the list. For example, A, lipid that store energy. B, protein that act as biological catalyst. C, nucleotide that transfer genetic information. D, carbohydrate that provide structural support. Of course, on this list, you have realized that the correct answer is B, which are protein that act as biological catalyst. Now, the second question is, what is the active site of an enzyme? Now, you need to note that the active site of an enzyme is that region or area where a specific substrate or substrate binds for chemical reaction to take place. And the active site have unique shape for the substrate to fit effectively into that particular region for specificity. Just like in the lock and key hypothesis, that is, the active site of an enzyme is that region of the enzyme where the substrate come to bind to it, and it will have a specific shape for the substrate to bind to it effectively so that reaction can take place. And if the active site of an enzyme is being altered, then of course the substrate will not be able to fit to that specific shape, and it is going to cause what is called denaturing of the enzyme. This denaturing of the enzyme, that is altering of the enzyme shape, is as a result of increase or very high temperature or pH level. So if this come in the form of a multiple choice question where you are being provided with some list of answers to select the correct one, then of course you're going to say the active site of an enzyme is that region where substrate come to bind to that region for reaction to occur. Now let me try to provide some list of answers to see how you can take the correct one, because they will try to confuse you. But of course, if you know the correct response, you will have the correct answer. For example, the active site of an enzyme is A, the region where substrate bind. B, the region where energy is stored. C, the part of an enzyme that is destroyed after reaction takes place. D, the region that inhibits enzyme activity. Of course, the correct answer is A, the region where the substrate binds. Question number 3. What is the role of enzyme in chemical reactions? Of course, the role of enzyme in chemical reaction is to speed up the rate at which the reaction takes place by acting as a catalyst by lowering the activation energy for reaction to occur. And when this happens, the amount of energy required to speed up the chemical reaction or the rate at which chemical reaction will take place will be very high by the speed. In other words, the enzyme acts as a catalyst, and catalysts help to speed up the rate of chemical reaction by lowering the activation energy for the reaction to take place more faster. So if you are being provided with list of answers to choose the correct one, as an example, A, increases activation energy, B, decreasing the activation energy, C, act as a reactant in the chemical reaction, D, completely stop the reaction. Of course, the answer is B, enzyme act as catalyst by reducing the activation energy or decreasing the activation energy. Now, question number 4 is a question which I found somewhere in some exam questions, and I found it relevant to share it with you. And this question states, what factor does not affect enzyme reaction or enzyme activity? And the list of options were given to select the correct one. The first, of course, was temperature. The next was pH. The next was substrate concentration. And finally, D was the color of the enzyme. Of course, looking at all of these options, the first 3, of course, play vital role when it comes to enzyme activity in terms of affecting its performance. So substrate, pH, that is temperature, pH, and substrate concentration will affect the rate of chemical reaction, but the color of the enzyme will have no effect. So the color of the enzyme does not affect enzyme activity, but of course, the first 3, like pH level, substrate concentration, as well as temperature, will affect the activity of enzymes. So the next question is, what happened to an enzyme when it is denatured? First, before answering this question, I would like you to understand that enzyme has a 3-dimensional shape structure. And once this shape is being denatured, it means that it has been altered from the original shape. What happened is, of course, enzyme activity might be stopped. This denaturing occurs as a result of extreme rate or extreme increase in pH level or temperature, causing this 3-dimensional shape to become altered. And when this occurs, the substrate will no more be able to bind to the active site of the enzyme, causing activity to stop. For example, if we have this, and this is the active site of the enzyme, and this is the substrate, what happens is this enzyme has a specific shape on the active site where the substrate will come to bind here on the active site. And once it binds, it has the lock and key hypothesis. But if there is extreme temperature or pH level, what happens is the enzyme, which is the active site, becomes denatured. And once it becomes denatured, the 3-dimensional structure, which is specific for the substrate to come and bind, will be altered. If at all, this end here, which you can see this round hole here, is being blocked or punctured, what happens is this will not be able to fit again to this end, because the 3-dimensional shape or the specific structure for which the substrate should bind has been denatured or destroyed. As a result, this substrate will no more be able to fit to that active site as a result of the disruption of the 3-dimensional shape structure. So when an enzyme has been denatured, what happens is A, it works faster. B, it becomes inactive due to the loss of its shape or structure. C, it produces more product. And D, it changes its substrate. The correct answer is B, it becomes inactive due to the loss of its shape or structure. And if you like to see even more of the upcoming series, then you want to make sure to go ahead to like and subscribe so that you are going to keep up with upcoming post notifications whenever they are ready. You can as well make sure to check relevant link below this video description to see even more questions and relevant answers to those specific questions under this topic, enzymes. So see you again in the next video, and bye-bye for now.